Germany, home of the LEC, for another thrilling and exciting season of the highest level of European League of Legends. In the upcoming weeks and months, we'll figure out if the Mad Lions can achieve the three-peat or be dethroned by some of the rebuild contenders that went big in the off-season. My name is Quickshot. I have missed you all. I have also missed Coolborg and Trouble, who will be joining me for this very special edition 1 hour ready check. Trouble, welcome to New Year.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. I don't think I've ever sat down on this couch around the studio for 1 hour straight, so I'm really excited to see what we've got.
I mean, we've missed you too. Wouldn't be the same without you. And I'm just super happy to be back with the action we're going to be experiencing today. It's been too long since we've had the LEC.
We absolutely have, and I'm looking forward to all the games. A very special shout out to Shocks before we get started. We love you, we miss you, and your throne is ready as soon as you are. Now, before we start, let's take a look back at our team's performances at Worlds 2021. It was the last time we saw them perform. I want to start with the Mad Lions. This is a team that reached the quarterfinals. They fell to Damwon Kia. What do we make of their performances? How did you feel about it?
In general, it was an interesting run coming out from EU as a general, but I think Mad Lions still did us proud despite the complications that there were along the way, getting through that tiebreaker. EU almost not making it out with a single team all towards quarters would have been absolutely ludicrous considering the history we have had in the past. But with the, what do you see, the burnouts, the long start they had to the season finally coming on towards the World Championship, I think we can still be proud. They fell out to Damwon, and I mean, I'm hopeful for another year where EU can still show up towards the end of it.
Yeah, definitely respectable fashion. We turn our attention to Fnatic and Rogue. Both teams fell out in groups, different circumstances. Can we call it a disappointment? Is that too harsh a word?
So here's the thing, right? Rogue had a pretty shaky split to begin with. We didn't necessarily have too much faith in them. We knew that they could perform when the time came, but even in playoffs, they look kind of shaky. So I don't know if it's a huge disappointment from Rogue. Obviously, we had stars like Hans Sama really rise to the top and try to put everyone in the backpack and carry them forward. But unfortunately, this is why this is a team sport. You need all five to perform to make it happen. And as for Fnatic, I think it was very unfortunate circumstances, right? They're losing upset, and even though Bean, yes, he's a high top-notch ERL ADC, but he's never played on the LEC stage. So even with the appearance that they had, I think they did pretty good.
Yeah, Fnatic, potentially one of the biggest what-ifs we've had in a long time at that World Championship, but that's all it really comes down to now. So I don't think you can be too sad about the fact that how it really turned out, right?
Yeah, and of course for Bean in particular, what a way to make your debut onto the stage. Now, let's move on to the LEC this year. Our format will stay unchanged compared to 2021. That means it's the same. The players will be playing online from their gaming houses for the start of the 2022 spring season. We are constantly assessing the COVID-19 situation on a weekly basis and evaluating when it is safe to bring them back to the studio for the teams, the orgs, as well as all the staff here. Now, some of our casters and analysts will also appear remotely on the show. And of course, we'll be able to kick off all of the fun and games. Now, unpredictable times, this showed in the off-season. I want to dial us back into the LEC. 25 roster changes, 8 brand new rookies, 3 players returning from North America, and 4 players leaving for the LCS. Let's start with some of the faces that have returned. I think we have to start with the big names, looking at Perks, looking at Alfari.
You have to just mention Perks in the beginning. One of the greatest of all times we've had here in Europe is finally back to play on our stage again, and with such a stellar team packed up against him. You're mentioning Alfari, obviously he's back too, and speaking of what-ifs with Fnatic, also one of the biggest what-ifs top laner we had here in Europe. So when you take this roster coming back together, that is probably the definition of a super team this time around.
I mean, it absolutely is. And I personally really like Vitality's approach. They invested in the self-made leader approach last year. It didn't work out. They've invested a lot in the roster this year. Now, Trouble, let's not forget Finn is also returning.
I was about to say, guys, don't forget.
I did not.
You guys can't forget Finn. I think when he came into the LEC, he was one of the promising rookies playing his aggressive play style. It never necessarily really bloomed in the LEC and didn't go either that great in NA, but hopefully, you know, he's gone to NA, taking some fresh air so that it doesn't really suit him, come back to LEC to get even stronger.
Let's start the memes early. Finn will get XL to playoffs. Now, we also lost some standout players. You know, we lost the likes of Hans Sama, Inspired, Whipple, and Blue. I know Hans Sama, you just spoke about him.
Yeah.
Trouble, it's a big loss to Europe, a big win for North America.
It's a big stab in the heart, because if somebody really rose up in that World Championship, out of all 3 teams that went there, I think it was Hans Sama. He's performance was unmatched. He played against the biggest names in the world, and he came out, I think, the winner out of all this. I think it is a really big loss for the EU scene to see Hans Sama go.
And to me, it was finally a chance to see Rogue evolve, because for the longest time, Rogue to me felt like a super stale team where we kind of knew what we were getting out of them. And even when talking to Inspired later, he also was saying on Reddit threads that in the AMA that this kind of felt like all they could do together, right? But at Worlds, it finally felt like, okay, Handsome are really stepping up. Some of these players are really stepping up onto a level that we had not seen before. And now for them to just move away, well, once again.
And it's so heartbreaking to lose more jungle talent.
Exactly.
Whippo is gone.
Is that jungle talent? Is that jungle talent
hey,
for losing?
technically speaking, yes. When he departed, it was. Let's talk very briefly about Team BDS. It is a brand new team to the LEC. They have acquired Schalke 04's LEC spot and some hype and some expectations for BDS.
I am actually super hyped about BDS, not because I think that they're going to come in and completely sweep the competition, but we got some good names coming in here in terms of former teammates, in terms of probably the closest we get to, you know, a upcoming team that's not coming through in terms of promotion, right? So Matty, Limit, Nuclear, and probably some guy we didn't see shine to the biggest potential since they were on Schalke, right? But then Adam with Syncroft again, which kind of gives you potential to play for that top side and stuff. So new definitions of players in this team, I feel like.
I think this is what makes it exciting, right? We've had so many fans bubble about, we need Kemtech to the LEC, we need Kemtech to the LEC. Where's the camera? Which one? This is the closest you get to Kemtech in the LEC. 3 members, 2 of them back-to-back EU Masters champions.
Technically, one of them was a former member as well.
Yeah,
so you
Nuclear.
could say 4,
True.
technicality-wise.
Yeah.
We've spoken a lot about new players. We've spoken about the new teams. And our stats team has prepared a couple of questions about the faces joining the LEC.
God.
Why, you might ask? Because it's time for the Quick Stats Rookie Quiz Show. Make sure if you're at home to join in and give your answer at discord.lec.gg. Jump in and see if you can get more correct answers than my analysts. They're supposedly experts with the rookies, so I'm going to put them to the test. Listen closely to the questions and see if you can get the right answer. How many competitive games has Dayor played in his career so far? Wait for the answers. You don't put your hand up. 20, 32, 44, or 56. Gulborg first.
44.
You're going 44. Trouble.
I'm going to go 32.
You're going to go 32.
Just so we can have a different answer.
The answer is 44.
He knew it. He
got
knew
lucky.
it.
It was a lucky
Do you know?
guess.
No. Do you know how many times I've said Deos played 44 games when I went to European Masters
I don't
towards the
listen.
end? Like we've
How
seen these.
many pentakills did Unforgiven get
Ding, ding, ding,
in the
ding, ding.
2021 season? 3, 4, 5, or 6?
4.
4.
Yeah, it's 4. She keeps talking about it. How can I not know?
Yeah, actually, I even knew that was well. They said it in rehearsal. So well played, well played. Our stats team and our analysts have not spoken about these questions. Now, who is the player with the most games played in the EU Masters of all time? Targamas, Schlatin, Syncroft, or Matty? I'll give you a brief moment to think about it because I can feel the panic. I can see
I
the
think
stress.
I think it has to be Matty due to UKLC back in the day. Schlatten. Oh, Schlatten's a really.
Ah, ding, ding,
I'll
ding.
go with
Time is up.
Targamas.
Targamas option
X-Matty.
1. Matty, and the answer is Matty. How does he get so lucky? You should buy a lottery ticket.
Yeah,
because
true.
this definitely
It's
doesn't come from
almost
skill.
like I've been following the URLs for a long time now.
Oh, sure. Push me under the bus.
Oh, man.
Thanks.
All right, I think we got one more question in the books. How many European Masters titles do the BDS players have combined? 5, 4, 6, or 3? Trouble?
5.
You're going with 5. Gulborg?
5.
He's going 5 as well, copying Trouble. 5 is the correct answer. I sincerely hope everybody at home got a bunch of those ones correct as well. The reason we're talking about the rookies and the rookie class is there are 8 new rookies from the ERLs joining the LEC this year. So let's have a closer look at who they are and what they think about their LEC debuts. That was awesome. You guys did great.
I think why I deserve this opportunity is just a matter of ambition and hard work. I know a lot of people have different opinions on which is the best choice for G2 once they bench Rika and stuff. But I believe I can be and I want to be the best AD carry in Europe.
My primary motivation is probably to just become the best and beat everyone else, because there's just a satisfaction in there.
I think I deserve to win the LEC because I have the certain drive. I hustle a lot for where I am right now, and I'm not gonna stop doing that. So I think I have the talent and the work ethic to do it.
I'm not sure if I deserve to win it. I will just try my best to prove that I deserve to win it. Well, I think the Lions were like interested in me because they just thought I was like a good player. I thought I would not be like good enough. It's like my Lions just won LEC twice, and that kind of means they're like the best team in Europe. It just feels like I think every player would feel the same way.
I deserve to win LEC just because I'm the best, and I will show it.
I think I deserve to win the LEC because it's my first split, and I believe I have a lot of talent. So yeah.
Why I deserve to win the LEC is probably because I try my hardest. Like I work every day for becoming a better player. Also, yeah, it's my goal, right?
What an absolutely exceptional introduction to some of the rookies taking to the stage here in the LEC. And honestly, what a fantastic ecosystem. I think we're exceptionally lucky to be able to utilize each of the countries, each of the ERLs, because we have seen the proof in the pudding. So many LEC teams picking up the next generation of superstars.
I just want to say here that last season, I was sitting on the same seat, Reckless next to me, and I was like, what is your opinion about all the rookies that are coming hungry and want to replace you? And now we have FLICKR.
I mean, it happened. Reckless is in an ERL, so definitely not the way it was supposed to. But look, okay, I obviously put both of my analysts on the spot with that quiz a moment ago. And I think this time around, I want to flip the script, give you guys the microphone and ask you to talk about some of the players that you were the most excited about coming into the 2022 season. So,
do I go with the same one I was fangirling over in
I
Masters?
think you should.
I think I should. I think my favorite player coming from the ERLs and EU Masters is Daya. This guy's speedrun from ERLs to LEC was faster than Adams. He played a quarter of an NLC split, replacing the legend that Feb even is, goes straight into EU Masters with a huge pull from fighters to bruisers to regular mages to even Seraphine. And then he claps everyone on his way to the finals versus Carmichael. I think nobody expected someone like this to be picked up by a Nog like Fnatic Rising in the NLC, and he actually shined through. He wasn't just a piece put into a puzzle, he was actually the piece for me that made Fnatic Rising take all this run to EU Masters and make him shine enough to be picked up and put into the LEC.
And while you're talking about speedrunning and the little experience,
yes,
I want to take it to the other end of that spectrum and talk about a guy with a lot of experience at this point. I want to talk about Rika. Rika was one of the most sought-out players, at least for the mid lane in the off-season. When I spoke to teams, people were trying out this guy so many times. And Rika has been the pride of Prime League for so long. Like, we're talking about former teammates with this guy. That's Advn, that's Gen X as well. So he's played with this guy that's already in the LEC. So it's just a matter of time before he really showed up here. You rewind it back to the European Masters. He took K-Corp to Game 5 as well in the semis. Like, it was a genuine close game. Now, when we talk about Rika and about his style, he brings a lot of flexibility. In spring, he was all about the melee champions. Even Fizz was on his champion pool. Then towards the end of summer, exactly, Silas as well. Towards the end of summer, he was all about the control mages, the Gallios, the Twisted Fate, to play for his laners. So I actually think when you take a look at him as a stylistic and a player in Mad Lions, he's going to be able to offer you a lot of flexible positions that might benefit them.
That is fantastic. I love the deep dive on the mid lane. For anybody that was looking at the stats, you would have noticed a change to the stats for 2022 at 8 minutes and at 14 minutes, respectively. Thank you, production. That was fantastic. This is to tie these to the early game snapshots to in-game points, like Rift Herald spawning and turret plates falling. You will hear more about that in-game from our shoutcasters. This was something that I hadn't quite prepared Trouble and Goldbook for, so I wanted to throw that one in there. We've looked at two mid laners. What about another lane?
I don't know, something I wasn't prepared for was that video that just played before. And Sin William, aka Unforgiven, who I very dearly have worked with since he was in SK Prime, and I was part of SK, still am. I've worked with him for an entire year, and his drive to be better didn't quite translate in that video we saw.
Do I deserve to win? I don't know.
Actually, Unforgiven has been one of the most sought out ADCs for a couple of splits now in the ERLs. There was always that underlining sentence of this guy's gonna make LEC, this guy's gonna make LEC. 4 pentakills into one season, an absurd amount of kills, most damage. I feel like in the Prime League, his stats were like first. His team didn't even make EU Masters, and he was that good. So I cannot wait to see what he brings to the table, because if we're talking bot lane dominance now with the new patch, I think Unforgiven is one of the AD carries that wants to stomp his lane.
Now, you're only talking about stats in the Prime League.
Listen,
okay? I want to take it to the broader scheme here, okay? So let's talk about the king of AD carries in the ERL.
You're taking that, okay.
X-Matty, back-to-back European Masters champions. You have to talk about him. And this is a guy that's quite dear in my heart. Back in 2017, he was just playing in the Danish National League. Then he went on to UKLC, beat that. Went on to LFL, beat that. Back-to-back champions at the European Masters. All right, he's probably got a stellar trophy case at this point, right? And it's not only that, it's the fact that he brings a selfless team fight style where he's not really taking resources in the early game. Actually, he's very used to his support just leaving him in lane and him respecting his opponents while still staying at a wave state that's even.
He knows how to play weak side, man.
He does know how to play weak side. He is the weak side AD carry, but he's still super good once you get to that team fight stage. So I think for a lot of people, X-Matty might go down off the radar a little bit in the beginning, but at the end of the course of the split, as we get more into team fight and he get more comfortable on the stage, I think you will see why he's so good.
I mean, it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you both so much. That was an exceptional segment. I'm very much looking forward to seeing what the 2022 rookie class can do. And of course, talking about changes, talking about new players, talking about movements, let's turn our attention to G2 Esports. They have made some of the most shocking moves in the off-season. They've undergone the biggest organizational change in their history, with starting players changing, the support staff moving. We're going to start with the big headline. Where is Reckless now, you might ask? Well, he's definitely surrounded by some passionate fans. What's it like? Allez Bleu? Allez Bleu?
Allez Bleu.
That's it. Carbon Core in the LFL trouble.
I mean, I think it was probably one of the best moves he could have made in the off-season, since he wasn't anymore part of G2, who the years at least before 2021 were the back-to-back champions in Europe. Why not join the back-to-back EU Masters champions? So technically, he's joining the team that are back-to-back champions in Europe, just in the ERLs.
But what a crazy development within the ecosystem as a whole, that Reckless, arguably the most famous, longest standing European player, is now at the ERLs, and we're seeing ERL players coming up to replace him. It says a lot about the system. I do want to keep this focused on G2 though, because they had a disappointing year. He wasn't the only player to be replaced, 3 of them in fact, and the only core that remains is now Jankos and Caps. Gulborg, this is still a strong core to build from if you are a fan of G2.
Yeah, I definitely think so. While Caps were probably lacking just a little bit, especially in spring as well last year, I think he ramped up towards the end of summer when he finally cut his hair. We all remember bald Caps. Who's going to forget that? But I also think Jankos actually had one of the better, seasons of his career, actually, where I think he stepped up immensely in the jungle, considering the issues we really saw on G2. So I think if you are going to have building blocks, these two are for sure some of the better ones to build the foundation on.
Now, let's talk a little bit about, of course, Targamas, and then followed up by Broken Blade. What do you make of the roster as a whole when you zoom out and you look at the 5?
So here's the thing, right? Raging G2 fans were like, replace Jankos or bring someone else to help him. Well, this is it. Targamas was literally the second jungler in Kemtech, the shadow of his jungler, actually. So I think Targamas and Jankos are going to hit off really well, because he's a heavy roaming support that likes to take over the Rift. And I think that, in combination with the leadership skills that Jankos brings into the table for G2, is going to be a match made in heaven.
Also, just the fact that you're bringing in Broken Blade now, that in the past could have loved to get some more resources. Well, as Trouble is mentioning, 2 junglers, you know what, as a top laner, it doesn't sound all too bad, so why not go for that one?
Now, it's too early to ask the question, but with the resetting of expectations for G2, how will they perform? I'm not going to ask you to answer it now. We're going to have to watch that, because I want to turn our attention to another team that's made some roster changes, the defending champions, Mad Lions. 2 changes, bringing in rookies from the German Prime League. Now, for Mad Lions, can they repeat the 2021 success with losing Humanoid and Kazi?
Honestly, I'm not going to stick too much on the players because if you had asked me that question and then the coaching staff was different, I would have replied different. But knowing that Mac and the coaching staff and the support behind the team has remained the same, I think, yes, they've got a really good reputation of being able to research for new talent, bring them in the team and help them develop into a very healthy environment to the point where we're talking about Mad Lions looked like a bunch of friends that just kept winning. If they can manage to do this with the newcomers in the team, I think it's another recipe for success.
But I also want to keep fan expectations in check, actually, because despite being back-to-back champions, every time we get near regular split, Mad Lions isn't actually performing. They're usually the kind of teams where systems are implemented, they're building up their strength over the course of the split. Once you reach playoffs, that's usually where we see Mad pops off. So coming in with new rookies, it's the same systems, it's the same coaches as you're mentioning, it's just new players being implemented into it. And we need to kind of trust the process at this time, even after MSI.
I mean, it's so true because there are very few teams that you can look at and say, I have huge confidence in the decisions they make, in the systems they build up from behind. But what Mac and the Mad Lions have been able to portray for all of us to consume and interpret from their interviews, you do have faith. I do have a question for you, though. Human and Kazi were kind of cheerleaders on the team in some ways. If anyone follows Kazi on Twitter, you'll know he's got an interesting sense of humor. Now, that humor, that spirit, is part of what allows and what helped this team to kind of bounce back or to deal with some of these difficult situations. You can't quite replace that with just pure in-game ability.
But at the same time, we don't know what the atmosphere is like now either. It's something that we need to know in interviews afterwards. It's something that needs to be built up from the players as well. We're back to remote cast, right? At least for the teams.
Yeah.
One of the things that stood out with Mad Lions in the beginning were the post-game celebration camps, for example, right? Yeah. So if we see some of this humor, like if they take games today, might even still see that.
Oh man, we don't know where it's going to go. So many questions, not enough answers. Another two teams with major changes to their lineups are Fnatic and Team Vitality, who some might say are favorites to win the LEC Spring title. Tomorrow, they will face off in the LG Ultra Gear match of the week. Familiar names in new jerseys and one returning legend is everything we could have hoped for in our opening match of the week.
I think the LEC is interesting because there's a lot of new blood, but also people returning from NA, and I think that's always the exciting spot.
It's kind of like a new slate for me again, where I just want to win the LEC, and looking with a whole different team, different club would be an amazing feeling.
I kind of believe that this is my last shot at actually winning something, because if I don't win with the roster I have right now, I don't think I will ever have a better one, right?
I think this match will be just a teaser for the year. I'm excited to start.
Keep on fighting, diving in from upset. Fnatic barreling down mid.
It's a team with upset and Hylissang, right? This team will be always about the bot lanes. We have Karzi, he's the biggest upset counter, right? He can stay under tower, he won't care if we're gonna win on the other side of the map. I know it's not like this in Fnatic.
It's really early to say if Vitality Fnatic is going to be, well, the final. My prediction would be that it would be.
Two teams have risen up with the two most promising squads. Vitality and Fnatic are stacked. But who will crumble under the pressure?
Do they run fast enough? True shot barrage! My Meslo gets there! No way!
One more on him. Able to finish him off. Alfari over the wall. He needs a little bit more, but Perks is back into the back line with the onslaught of shadows. This is a Game 5 performance from Perks.
Yes, that tower's going to go down, but it was going to go down anyway as Showmaker looks for the ult.
There's the sleep, there's no soul unbound, and Humanoid manages to secure a solo bowler.
Wonder, he's going to take the Blitzcrank. The rocket grab's going to go, and he hooks Hansama. The knockup is there. What champion can't this man play?
Like, I've played with Wunders, I know some of his weaknesses. I know Humanoid is like really bad at melee champions.
What? Perks has a really big history. That doesn't really mean that I'm gonna be like scared of him or something, especially since I already know how he plays and I played against him many times.
This is the beginning of a new era for the LEC, and it starts with Vitality versus Fnatic. Humanoid's bad at Melee champions.
I mean, he's very good at Akali and Silas. I don't know if he's bad on these champions for sure, but yeah, Perks, I mean, he can talk the talk and walk the walk.
Of course he can. I'm so glad to have him back. Now, while we break down these rosters, I want you at home to let us know who you think won the offseason. So, hop into chat and spam FNC or VIT, and we'll track who you think won the offseason, Fnatic or Vitality. Let's start with the big picture. These are the two strongest teams on paper. Trouble, it's hard to argue against that when you see the names, you see the pieces, and theoretically what they could do.
I mean, for sure, Vitality have got the cash raining in. They brought the two legends back, you know, from NA. They've got Perks, the most decorated player that we have in EU. They brought Alfari. Gulbok said it. We were always saying it. The what if guy. What if I was in a really, really good team? What could have happened then?
And that's the exact thing, right? The greatest of all time in Europe. There's no disputing that with Perks. I think a lot of people are taking a look at the things that surround him as a player as well. But I feel like stylistically, they still have the right course on track to really play on a top side focus. You got self-lit bot lane with Kasi in the back that beforehand, you know, took it quite chill on Mad Lions. Laning phase wasn't the biggest issue, and that gives you a lot of opportunity and room to play around the bigger personalities.
I am putting you on the spot right now. Gulborg, I want you to answer a simple question.
Yeah.
Is Vitality a super team, yes or no?
Yes, and am I not supposed to define it? I'm just gonna, okay, yes, I find them as a super team.
Trouble, do you think super teams will fail as they have in the past, or will this one be different?
Let me go tutorial quickly. I want to hope yes, because we need some international success, okay?
Interesting. Okay, so that's, of course, Vitality as an introduction. Let's turn our attention to Fnatic. They upgraded their entire roster. I'm going to throw over to Trouble and take us through, top to bottom.
I think that this is the true European super team that we have. We've got Wonder in the top lane, the back-to-back, the how many EU championships he has, I've forgotten, I've lost count. Right? The MSI champion, world's finalist, plays every champion under the moon over in the top lane. Razog, one of the most promising rookies, very aggressive playstyle in the jungle. We go down to mid, Humanoid, the best jungler, mid laner that we had in 2021. Not arguably, and I'm not going to argue about this one either. The bot lane is the best in the West.
The best in the West. Oh, I love that.
I think I love the stylistics of Fnatic too as well, because now you have, as you were saying, one of the best mid lane, if not the best, the best in terms of laning stats, right? In the mid lane now with Humanoid. The ability this gives you as a team, especially when you're bot side focused, to always have mid lane priority while TPs no longer are available until 14 minutes to go down, wreak havoc here, get them on the right track. That gives you a lot of room to play around with as Fnatic.
That is the scariest thing in my mind when you look at facing Fnatic, Upset and Hilly with no TP support.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Are you not going to ask if they're a super team?
The two of you, no, definitely not. Two of you, to take a look around behind you. This has been 50-50 for the entire segment. Fans at home spam FNC or VIT
I think I persuaded them all.
And it is just ticked over towards Fnatic.
I win?
Ever so slightly. Now, I am going to put you guys on the spot. This is our LG Ultra Game Match of the Week tomorrow. Who is going to come out on top the first time they meet? Ladies first, Trouble.
I'm going to get out of the line. I'm going to go with Fnatic. I didn't make the speech for nothing, quick shot.
That's fine. You can call Humanoid the best mid in Europe, but let's realize the fact that Perks wasn't here while he was the best mid in Europe. Perks is now back. I'm going to give it to Vitality. I believe in the honeymoon effect of it in the beginning.
What?
Well, we'll have to find out what happens tomorrow. Thank you so much for the breakdown and the hype for our first match of the week of the year. We've talked a lot about the teams and players up until now, and after the break, Cadril and Vedius will look at the newest game mechanics and introduce you to Vex, the latest champion to hit the Rift.
surprise, yes, it's me. I'm so excited to be back for the LEC 2022. Unfortunately, the first couple of weeks will have to be from home because I'm quarantined, but it doesn't mean that I can't be here for you guys and give you some content, some casts, some analysis on the desk. So expect to see me throughout the rest of the year, but enough about me, it's League of Legends time. Now, 2022 has had a lot of big changes in the preseason, although I will say this preseason patch was a lot smaller than previous ones. All that's happened is a couple shakeups on the map. Maybe you've seen it online, maybe you've read about it, but I'm just going to give you a quick rundown anyway to make sure we're all on the same page when we watch some League of Legends today. Now, kicking off with dragons, there's been 2 new dragons added to the Rift, the Hextech Dragon and the Kemtech Dragon. This is the Hextech Dragon on your stream. It looks absolutely beautiful. I have to say that dragon looks really cool. But big things have changed with this dragon. First one, it gives you a little bit of ability haste and attack speed as a base buff. Second one, there's portals on the map. Yeah, similar to when blast cones were added a long time ago. Now there's portals on Summoner's Rift where you can take a portal across the map to the enemy team's jungle or from your base into your own jungle. Now this can be used very, very creatively, so expect pro players to try to flank, look for picks, or throw the enemy team off guard when they find them in a different bush that you don't expect them to be in, because you can have vision on one side of the map, but they might just portal all the way across into your jungle and then they're behind you, so something to keep an eye out on. The second dragon is the Kemtech Dragon. Now this dragon's very different. It does change up the map a lot, but before we get to that, the champion itself gives you bonus damage to champions with greater current health than you. Now we're gonna see what happens to the map, because I think this is ludicrous, honestly, because now there's hardly any bushes on the Rift whatsoever. It's just a pure camouflage invisibility zone, so there's gonna be a lot of skirmishing around these areas. No bushes means less vision control. Less vision control means more fighting for control, and you're basically camouflaged up to a certain radius, and when you step inside that radius you can see the champion. If you don't, they're invisible and you can't see them. The soul itself is very powerful. Once you die in a team fight, you come back to life for around 3 to 4 seconds. Similar to a Scion passive, when he dies, your health bar slowly ticks down, but you can still use all your abilities. So in a 5v5 team fight, suddenly it's almost like a 10v5 as the fight kicks off and you do start to find some kills on the enemy team. The last thing that's changed, is pretty big, is the objective bounties. Very similar to champion bounties, how when you get a shutdown, it's 1,000 gold or 800 gold. On the champion, the bounties actually have now been placed on objectives. So if you're behind around 5,000 gold, 6,000 gold, you can kill a tier 1 tower, you can kill a dragon, a herald, a baron, even if you manage to steal it, and you'll get a big chunk of gold extra because you're behind. So I think this is quite a powerful comeback mechanic. So when one team's ahead, they have full control of the map. If you actually trade a tier 1 tower versus their tier 1 tower when you're behind, this is always going to be a winning trade for you. So these are the 3 major shakeups to the game itself. I won't go into in-depth into the specifics, because you'll see them on your stream and you'll see them in the pro games themselves. The last thing is champions, right? There's going to be new champions coming in, Akshan, Vex, and I think Vedius?
Rawr.
Vedius, you okay, buddy?
Rawr. Whoa, who turned the lights on? Huh? Hey, get out of my room! What do you mean this isn't my room? You want to what? There are other people here? Welcome everyone to Sad Town. Population, me. Everyone else can get out while I talk about Vex, who's kind of cool, I guess. Vex is a burst mage that's really good at killing stuff, like my soul, you know? In general, Vex is solid at every stage of the game. Her laning is not a phase, though. It's a way of life, and it's a pretty good one. Her roams take a lot of effort, but they are effective, if she can be bothered. Her team fighting makes everybody frown more, which makes her happy, which then makes her sad. So overall, it's pretty good. People say that other mages scale better than she does. Nobody asked, so that means nobody cares. And when Shadow finally decides to do something is normally when people should be scared, which is like level 6 or whatever. He makes a really loud whoosh and drags Vex around everywhere, bursting people like they're balloons at a party. But it's only a party for one, so everyone else has to go. This also means she's good at removing unwanted visitors from the jungle. A skirmish a day keeps friendship away, apparently. Like getting through life, playing against Vex is just being scared until you die. Everything she does can fear you, meaning she can scare you and kill you herself, or she can let someone else do it, like those jungler things or whatever. Now Vex doesn't like to admit it, but she works best when other people do stuff for her, like engage or offer crowd control. because she can't really be bothered, so it's a lot easier to hit things. If she does hit them, she can do it again and again and again, which makes her team happy. Ugh, yuck. She might like being alone, but there are some really annoying people that sit in side lanes, so she's not the best there. Some people, again, say that she doesn't scale as well as other mages, but those people are the worst. The other thing is, she likes to do things quickly, so she'll burst people really fast. But if she, doesn't have any money, she'll just be a disappointment. All in all, she's kind of cool, I guess. She can do something at every stage of the game. Some nerd or whatever named Scout played her in the LPL, and here are his runes in the build that he used. You can also run Electrocute if you want, but I don't care. Go away, so I can wallow in silence. Turn the lights off. Rawr.
Rawr. Come on, man.
To quote Vedius, I can't be bothered.
I missed Vedius' cousin Gothius.
That's his name. I was like, was it Emeos?
Oh, yeah, Vedius hasn't made it on the show yet. Okay, we're saving him for later. But I do want to say thank you to Kadril and Gothius for joining us for those breakdowns. I'm going to turn to Trouble and Gulborg and ask, what's your take on the meta? We've seen a couple of leagues picking up around the world, here at home as well. What are you most excited for, and what changes have you seen from the games you've already seen?
I mean, we're always pride ourselves in having the best bot lanes almost in the world, but we're very, very close. We're almost getting there. And now with the teleport changes, I just want to see bloodbath in the bot lane. I want to see pure dominance. I want to see supports staying in lane and actually knowing who their ADC is for that season. And I would love to see just the 2v2, the pure skill. So many skill shots, the Caitlyn's with the Lux is so many skill shots thrown at each other. This shows who the dominant bot lane is.
And I want to keep it that bot lane because I want to give it some specifics with some picks instead. Because I do feel like there's room for the roaming playstyle as well, even more. If you can shut someone down who has to use TP back to lane and you get TP advantage in a solo lane, you can do so much with that in terms of wave state, in terms of taking bad trades to get a favorable wave state afterwards. But I want to take it to the pick. So with Jinx, you can still have this roaming support if that's what you want. So you can pair it up with Enchanters, you can pair it up with Engage supports like the Thresh or something else like that. But we also have Caitlyn coming back into the mist. And this is something I have missed a lot because Caitlyn is this kind of AD carry that draws the attention, the entire map to her instead. If you're the team with Caitlyn, it's all about getting her ahead to take the plating down, to then rotate around the map, which then again, no TP changes, becomes even more valuable to you. But also for the enemies, shutting down a Caitlyn also becomes so much more important because if you can keep her behind the curve and have your AD carry ahead, then all of a sudden it feels like the enemy team does not have an AD carry. So down in the bottom, I'm ready for it.
Retro comment here, if there's no Caitlyn power trough, then that's great. Trouble, what champion would you like to see this weekend in the LEC? Vex? That was pretty good. I like that one. Let's turn our attention to the first games on the docket and today's schedule to kick off the 2022 spring season. It is Vitality versus Mad Lions to open the day. It is Team BDS versus Fnatic. We could say Adam versus Fnatic as well. Let's turn. Gulborg, what game are you most excited for when we look at the 5?
I'm actually the first one that we have right here. I feel like there's a lot of expectations to come through just because new rookies as well that I want to see. Legends returning. I want to see it work out for them. I want to see kind of just a general baseline, really, of the competition that we can expect because you guys already talked about Fnatic, Vitality, who won the offseason. Luckily, we'll get the answers later.
I just wonder how BDS will do because they're a completely new org. They brought in 3/5 of Carmine Corp in Nuclear and 3.5/5 of Carmine Corp, and they're completely new org, completely new team. I wonder how they're gonna pair against all those titans that we already had in the league.
The thing is, there's so many questions because you can look at XL and G2 and ask exactly the same questions after the changes to the roster, and especially on the G2 side, where are they going to step and perform? Misfits losing Razork is huge. How will they perform with Zlatan coming up? So a lot of questions that we're going to have to answer today. If you guys at home are on Discord, check out discord.lec.gg. Earlier today, we were asking who's going to pick up their first win, and we got hundreds and hundreds of replies. So make sure you get on there to join us in all the fun and games for the rest of the season. Now, as we're getting closer to Game 1 of the LEC Spring 2022 season, we are celebrating the return of the GOAT. Perkz, the most decorated player in our league's history. After a year with Cloud9 in the LCS, he's back to reclaim what he would consider his throne. And we asked for his thoughts on his return to Europe.
It feels very good to be back in the LEC. It feels natural. it's like, it's where I belong, you know. I mean, I would like lie if I said it wasn't like part of me. Like I don't want my like career to like represent what I am, but it's definitely a part of me, and I definitely feel like this is like where I grew up, you know, where it's all connected with my life as well. So I want to just do very well again and kind of like keep, you know, stay humble. I don't really want to think about too much about my past, and just like basically it's kind of like a new slate for me again, where I just want to win the LEC once again, and looking with a whole different team, different club would be an amazing feeling. So I'm just, yeah, I'm gonna give it my best and see if it's good enough, you know.
8 LEC titles, an LCS title, 1 MSI trophy, a Worlds Finals, and 4 Worlds knockout stages in a row. The King is back, and with a lineup of superstars surrounding him, his trophy cabinet might even be fuller by the end of the year. After a short 1-year stint in NA, Perkz has returned to his home turf, looking to reclaim his lane kingdom. The Western GOAT is starting a new chapter as he leads a Vitality team full of strong personalities and is going to have a tough task in keeping everyone on the same page. But this is where Perkz has excelled throughout his careers, not just in the highlight moments, but standing up as a leader in the deciding hour, the calm voice guiding his team through a rocky storm towards success on the domestic and international stage. But a lot has changed since the last time he ruled the lane kingdom in the LEC. We have the new kids in town, Mad Lions winning back-to-back titles in 2021. Old rivals Fnatic have built a star-studded lineup with Humanoid looking to take down Perkz tomorrow in our match of the week. And of course, we can't forget, he's going to have to face his old partner in crime, Caps, and the rest of the rebuilt G2 lineup. On Vitality, Perkz is surrounded by superstars, and if they click, we could see the rise of a new EU powerhouse. He's already the most winning player in EU history. Of all the big names we've seen come and go, Soaz, Xpeke, Yellowstar, even Reckless, he is the king. Alone at the top, untouched, unmatched, and unstoppable. This year is about proving that he can rule the LEC again.
All hail the king. All hail Vitality. That is exactly what Perkz is going to want. Twitch chat, I see you. And if I could put a screaming goat in chat, I would. I'm hearing a lot of goat memes are being thrown out. Let's take a moment to talk about Perkz. He is the most successful player to have ever played in the league. The most winningest is a phrase that I've used many, many times in the past. This is a player that has also shown that regardless of the roster, he can be the X factor, the difference maker, and has consistently shown success throughout his entire career.
I think you can call him a genius at the game. And I think that's not a title you give out lightly. I think another one you could give that was Shahu. And the reason why they're a genius at the game is because they don't only do this in one role. They can go back to the AD, or he can go back to AD, he can go back to mid. It's what he brings to a team that you're also mentioning. Like if you talk to all of his former teammates, they'll always talk about the factor he brings to a team, the kind of experience and atmosphere that you feel at the same time. Down 0-2 is a comfort zone. Like it's just like he's always ready to rally the troops, bring them forward, no matter the role, almost no matter the champion. He's so flexible as a player in person.
There is a thing about Perkz that is intangible. You cannot define it in stats. You cannot demonstrate it in gameplay. It is a quality around leadership. It is a confidence in himself and his team. It is an understanding of the game. As we were watching that interview, Trouble, you turned to me and said, this is a really humble conversation.
I was expecting I'm coming to Europe to clap every single one of you and reclaim my throne.
He'll say that publicly.
But sitting on that chair, he seemed so humble.
Yeah, not like
he
him.
seemed like he completely tore apart the entire book, and he's sticking back pages anew.
This is the thing. Behind the scenes, this is the player that is renowned and respected for that leadership. I'm going to bounce now immediately after what Trouble just said. The ego, bravado in public facing, the confidence, the calm.
Hey, if you can walk the walk.
What are the expectations for Vitality?
I think Vitality is an interesting subject because we were talking about what defines a super team. What is this super team? Are they a super team? And I think they are because of the fact you take a look at the entire roster as a whole. Alphari, potentially one of the biggest what-ifs of top laners. You will always hear about other top laners talking about how dangerous he is to play against, how smart he is about the game, and we know that he also likes to be played for. Selfmade might be the most aggressive jungler we have in the LEC, and now combined with perks that we used to say will always want resources, we've seen him be more selfless too. I think that this is a very scary top side of the map that makes them incredibly difficult to deal with. Another thing I think kind of complements them well is the fact that they went with Kasi as an AD choice. Not only are they nice friends behind the scene, but Kasi is also an AD carry who did not mind not having resources, who did not mind having to play on the back foot. And I think that's interesting. Now you also take a look at LeBroff, that finally has a team around him where there's room for success for him to show. We haven't really seen that from LeBroff yet, but I believe with these puzzle pieces we've built a team around, they finally have what they need to succeed.
I think vitality and making bold decisions in the roster is one
2 years
together.
running, yeah.
I feel like when there's a lot talked about and when there is a lot of room for success and when you've already set it really high, there's a lot of room to fall as well. I think Selfmade said it in one of his interviews as well. He's like, I'm afraid to fail because this is the roster to succeed with.
I've got a question for you then. Like, I love that quote, and I'm going to be cheeky and apply it a little to Alfari. This is a player that has, throughout his entire career, been renowned, been respected for his performance, but ultimately doesn't have a huge amount of success over the years he's played. What sort of pressure is going to be on Alfari as well? Because the same logic applies.
That's probably the best team Alfari has been in as well. Taking away anything that happened in A, staying strictly in Europe, this is the best team that he could potentially have asked for. Now, the question marks are looking around, you know, either ERLs or other leagues in the world, we see a lot of bot lane being played for, and Golbok mentioned Kazi doesn't mind not being played for. All I heard in the top side of the map was resources, resources, resources. What happens when suddenly Kazi has to take everything for himself? Not because he has to, but this is because how the game is being played right now. This is what's going to be exciting to see.
I love this. Trouble, you set me up again, because one last question before we move on to the Mad Lions. Gulborg, I'm going to come to you and say, what are going to be the challenges for Vitality at the beginning of spring?
I think everyone's looking at this, and we might as well let the cat out the bag. I think people are looking at personalities, right? I don't think anyone doubt the level of play we'll be seeing on Summoner's Rift. I think a lot of people realize that, or think at least, if this team fails, it's due to the fact that maybe it's something behind the scene with arguing about who needs the resources or who needs what. But even then, we don't know the team atmosphere.
Yeah, it's all conjecture. We're guessing.
This is just guessing, right? Because if I only have to look at this from an analytical standpoint in terms of how good these players are, then I am not seeing them fail. I am seeing them making this work.
As individual components. But every Voltron robot needs 5 pieces to come together. Will Vitality do it? Let's turn to their opponents in our first game of 2022. The current Kings of EU, the back-to-back champions, Mad Lions. Law caught up with their head coach, Mac, to talk about their new roster and expectations for the year.
Thank you, Trevor and Mac. Thank you so much for joining me. Welcome back to the LEC for a new season with the Mad Lions. First question I have for you is about the team and the roster you built, because obviously you lost 2 players, bringing in Rika and Unforgiven in the team. Tell me about them and how they're going to change Mad Lions as we knew them.
I think they're both very exciting players to be working with, actually. So far, they've both been wonderful to work with in the sense that they're both great learners, they're both good communicators, and they're both really versatile. I think exactly what kind of identity we have as a team kind of remains yet to be seen. But I think certainly versatility is a word that that I would use to describe both of them, which is, I think, bodes well for the future.
And how did you have to adapt in coaching? Because I know that Mad Lions have been used to training rookies. You guys have been really good doing that over the years. But yeah, how does it change for you in the way you're going to be coaching the team this year?
As you said, I think it's not that huge of an adaptation for us as a staff, although there are obviously certain things that our old players did very well, and those are things that you know, each player has their own unique strengths and unique patterns of plays and little things that they do extremely well. So trying to bring through some of those things to the new players and show them, okay, like this is something we did in the past that worked really well for us. See if it works well for you as well. While also kind of remaining fluid. I think the big challenge in terms of adaptation is for our new players, because obviously they're in the game with them, and with every time you change a player, everyone's roles within the team in terms of their communication inside the shot calling structure changes quite dramatically. So I'd say that's the biggest change.
Right, you talk about the players, but I have to point out the fact that you coming back as the double-time LEC winner from last year, how is it going to impact the players in terms of pressure and looking forward to this year?
I think it definitely does put some pressure on our returning players' shoulders in terms of expectations, which is why I think it's important that internally we try to turn our backs to those expectations as much as we possibly can, and we just focus on the here and now. You know, we focus on getting better as a team, and we put faith in the fact that if we keep getting better as a team every single day, then it doesn't really matter what's happening and what external perceptions of us are. So that's very much the mentality that we'll be coming into it with. As I said at this time last year, if it takes us some time to adjust and it takes us some time to be a good team, that's completely fine. I don't mind.
Well, now about the opening game in the LEC, you'll be facing off against Vitality, former teammate also with the likes of Carzzy. Any words on that matchup?
I think it's really exciting. We've always opened the season actually Mad Lions every single season, so I quite like it. It would be different if we weren't. Obviously, I really want to win against Carzzy. I think all of us do, and I'm sure the same goes for him. But aside from that, nothing but respect for all of the Vitality players, and I think it's going to be a banger of a game.
It's going to be a banger of a game for sure. Well, Mac, I'll let you prep with the team. Thank you so much for the interview. Good luck later today in the opening match, and we'll talk later. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, and back to you, Trev.
Thank you so much, Law. Fantastic interview with a fantastic interview guest. I genuinely love hearing from Mac. I also appreciate that his earnest and honest approach to sharing and divulging what happens with the team. The level of transparency is quite unheard of. However, I have heard this speech before. I've heard this approach before. This time around, I think expectations are a little different. There are bigger question marks because they are the back-to-back champions. So therefore, the bar has been elevated from the last time we heard it.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, let's be real. He's also talking reality. He's also talking about the fact that with these players, it's actually going to take a little bit of time before we finally get back to the Mad Lions that will take these trophies. But he's obviously very confident that it will happen at some point. Are these players going to come in and suddenly replace Humanoid and Carzzy? No, they're not going to be able to do that as soon as they come in. I think that's completely unheard of. But they have potential. And he's talking about this versatility, both as we know for Unforgiven with his aggressive Dravens and all this, but also in terms of Rika in the mid lane, in terms of melee champions, in terms of range champions. They get to have a lot of puzzle pieces to play around with. But the thing is, when you build a puzzle, you don't get it right immediately. You have to have some trial and error.
It's so good.
I would like to put a timeline for all the Mad Lions fans out there. When Carzzy first joined the league, and when Humanoid first joined the league, and when they first formed Mad Lions together, the expectations were really low. And now I do understand that winning the back-to-back, being the kings of Europe, if you will, for 2021 is an achievement on his own. If you put the names back where they joined together next to each other, I think Max sees the same thing. Development. He sees promise. He has been through it. He has seen the same faces that now he sees in Unforgiven, and Rika, in Carzzy, and in Humanoid. So I think he already has the recipe. If he has to tweak it a little bit, it might take a little bit of time, but I think it's all there.
It's such a difficult start, though, coming up against Vitality.
Yeah.
Now, of course, we need to see what level Vitality will be performing in. I do want to dial it into one specific lane, though, as we now bring the two teams against one another. I want to talk a little bit about Kaiser and Lebrov. These are players that we have not extensively covered for the last 5 or so minutes. What are our expectations for this matchup and how they'll go head-to-head?
See, it's definitely an interesting conversation because if you talk with a lot of people, then Kaiser is definitely the top 2 support we have here in Europe. While Labrov has always been talked about both outside of his solo queue performances, but also as still a highlight of the rosters he's been on. I think the problem for Labrov is that he's never been on a roster where you could say, oh, all these teammates are doing so great that we're able to see how good of a support he is. Because that's how the support role functions. You are quite reliant on getting highlight players ahead, whereas Kaiser, he's been a bit more on the luck. I don't know if we should say lucky yet, but if you take a look at the facts, his laners has definitely been better if you had to compare Humanoid with Leader last year, right? So it's definitely going to be interesting for Labrov. This is a point for him to now finally prove that he should be part of this conversation.
I think, let's be honest, Kaiser was the highlight flank support that we all looked at. His Rakan specifically performances, like, stay in mind. He's the guy who will find the team fights for you. That mid game that we always talk about Mad Lions, I think Kaiser is like a very key component to how they find these fights.
I think so too, and I think also when you consider the experience that he will bring to the Mad Lions, to that bottom lane, to the duo, is going to be very beneficial. If I flip the script and look on the other side, Carzzy and Lebrov reunited after playing together. Was it in big EU Masters?
Absolutely. 2019 summer, they won that with Big. Previously from that, they've won another 2 German tournaments together. I think the synergy obviously was there and it was flowing back then. Now they just have to reignite the pro ones coming in.
And that's what's interesting about that conversation, right? Because back then when they did win European Masters, everyone was like, this bot lane is so good, we want to see them together. But now, you know, years later, where they've not only improved as individuals, we get to see how much they've improved as a duo. And, you know, they should be better than they were in 2019. So I'm actually really excited to see how they perform together.
Well, we'll find out. I have one last question before I move on to predictions, and it's going to be, how will Perkz perform in the middle lane? And how high would you set the bar?
I'm setting the bar super high. You're going up against a rookie, right? In the terms of Rika, you want to show that, all right, you want to know what pressure is? You'll feel that against me. I want to see Perkz actually challenge Rika at every chance he's given. So Rika also gets to have the proper, what do you say, kind of molding around him in terms of how you shape yourself as a player. You need to get beaten down before you can rise up and become better.
See, this is what I'm thinking right now. Mid lane is going to be a snooze fest. Seeing all the champions that are going around in the mid lane around the world, mid is going to be a snooze fest. I'm looking down the ball. I'm looking at Kazi facing Unforgiven, the guy who replaced him, a rookie. I think that's where the pressure is.
Final thought before I move to predictions.
All right, I think they'll go 1-for-1. I think they'll take a book out of Korea and be like, well, I've seen Akali, I've seen Aurelia. I'm hoping we get to see 1-3-1 with Perkz and Alfari. That's kind of my dream with this roster.
Oh, man, we are moments away from the opening ceremony and then picks and bans for Game 1. Fans at home have been asked who will win, Vitality or Mad Lions, and it's 1,081 votes for Vitality to 193 for Mad Lions. I turn to my analysts, and I will go gentlemen first. Gulborg, who will win?
193 voters rode into the Valley of Death. I think it's on Vitality instead that needs to get this one. I think Vitality is definitely the favorite coming into this one, and I'm expecting them to take the victory.
See, you know, Leonidas walked into the gates with very, very few men, and he did manage to win, and he would have had it not been for the snitch. So I will stay with Mad Lions here. I'm defending the back-to-back champions.
Snitch is Kazi.
The snitch is Kazi. He's right there.
I absolutely love that we have a Greek on-air talent who is quoting Leonidas on this one. Now, of course, that will be the very first matchup of the game. We are moments away from our opening ceremony. It has been a very long time since we have played on this stage. It has been a long time since I have been here personally. We have new faces on air. We have new faces on the stage. And it has been 138 long days since the last match in the LEC. The Mad Lions, they crowned themselves Kings of Europe 2 times in a row. Find out if this revamped Team Vitality will be able to challenge, to overcome, to take down the reigning champions, to shut down the Pride, to stop Leonidas in his tracks, and to find out who will win the first game of LEC Spring 2022. God damn, I'm happy to be back.